All right, so are you ready to dive in? I think we've got some fascinating source material to dig into today, all about building wealth here in the USA.
Definitely. And this one, it's kind of structured like a podcast episode itself, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and on the surface, it looks like a classic get-rich-quick scheme, all of the usual promises, but my hunch is if we look a bit deeper, we'll find some valuable nuggets of wisdom buried in there.
Oh, yeah. There's a definite like push and pull between that quick fix mentality and some solid financial principles.
Hmm.
It's kind of like they're trying to appeal to everyone, those looking for shortcuts and those who are serious about the long game.
Exactly. And right from the start, they jump into the importance of mindset. So it's not just about chasing those quick wins, it's about cultivating the right attitude for building wealth over the long term.
And what I found intriguing is this idea of shifting your perspective.
Mm.
Like instead of seeing your income as the end goal, you start viewing it as the fuel that powers your wealth building engine.
I like that the fuel, yeah, so you're not just working for money, but money is working for you.
Yeah. Exactly. And they talk about passive income, which, might sound like a buzzword, but it's a crucial concept. Think of it like a tree you planted years ago.
Hmm.
Now it's bearing fruit without you needing to tend to it every day.
Okay.
That's passive income money working for you, not the other way around.
Makes sense. So it's not about slaving away at a job forever. It's about building something that eventually generates income without constant effort.
Right. And that brings us to you, the listener. What are your long-term financial goals? What does financial freedom look like for you? Is it early retirement, travel security for your family?
Yeah.
Keep that vision in mind as we break down the source's 3 fastest ways to get rich.
Okay, fastest in air quotes there, because we know there's no magic bullet, right?
Exactly. It still requires effort and strategy. The first pass they highlight is developing high-income skills. They specifically list coding, sales, copywriting, digital marketing investing.
It's an interesting mix, and I'd say those are all pretty valuable skills in today's economy. They're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Exactly. And many of them are transferable. You could be a coder for a tech company or a freelancer building websites for clients.
Mhm.
What I found fascinating is this idea they suggest of combining these skills with AI. That's where things could get really interesting.
Yeah, it's like a whole new frontier, right? Using AI to automate tasks, analyze data, maybe even create content.
It makes you wonder how AI will reshape these fields in the coming years. And for you listening, think about your existing skills and interests. Maybe there's a high income skill on that list that aligns with what you already enjoy doing.
Great point. So you're not starting from scratch necessarily. You can build on your existing strengths. All right, the second path they propose is starting a scalable business. And they throw around a lot of buzzwords here. Dropshipping digital products, SaaS affiliate marketing. They're really emphasizing online businesses.
Yeah, scalability is the key word here. Think of it like this.
Mm.
A traditional brick-and-mortar business might require you to invest in a physical storefront. Hire staff, manage inventory. With an online business, you could potentially reach a global audience with much lower overhead costs.
That makes sense. You're not limited by physical location or traditional business expenses. You can grow much faster.
Exactly. And they do emphasize the importance of having a team. Even if you're starting small, you shouldn't try to do everything yourself. So for our listener, here's a question. What niche markets or problems could you address through an online business? What are you passionate about that could be turned into a viable business idea?
Love that question. It really gets you thinking outside the box. All right, path number 3, investing. Like the wealthy, they recommend stocks, index funds, real estate, even crypto. Pretty standard recommendations, I'd say.
Yes, but what I appreciate is their focus on diversification and risk management. They're not just saying throw your money into stocks and hope for the best. They highlight the importance of spreading your investments across different asset classes to minimize risk.
Yeah, that's where those get-rich-quick schemes often fall short. They promise high returns without acknowledging the risks involved.
Right. And they talk about the power of compound interest, which can be amazing for long-term wealth.
Mhm.
Imagine this. You invest $10,000 today at a 7% annual interest rate. After 10 years, your investment would grow to almost $20,000. Your money essentially doubled without you doing anything extra.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. But of course, no investment is entirely risk-free, right?
True. So it's important to assess your risk tolerance. How comfortable are you with potential market fluctuations? Are you okay with some ups and downs, or do you need more stability?
Great point, because investing should align with your individual goals and comfort level. Okay, so we've explored their 3 paths to wealth, but they also dedicate a lot of time to outlining common mistakes, those things that can sabotage your financial progress.
It's easy to dismiss these as obvious, but I think it's about recognizing how seemingly small behavioral changes can make a huge difference over time.
Yeah, they call these the broke behaviors. It's like a wake-up call if you're falling into these traps. They list things like overspending, relying on a single income source, delaying investing, ignoring credit and debt.
Let's break those down a bit. Overspending isn't just about buying luxury items. It's about being mindless with your money, living beyond your means. They really push the importance of budgeting and tracking expenses to gain control.
Yeah, it's so easy to fall into that trap of lifestyle creep, especially with all the marketing messages telling us we need more stuff.
And relying only on a single income source can be risky. What happens if you lose your job or your industry takes a hit? They recommend diversifying your income streams through freelancing side hustles or investments.
So it's like having multiple safety nets, right? You're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And that ties in with delaying investing. The earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow.
Exactly. Even small contributions invested consistently over time can make a huge difference. And then there's credit and debt. Neglecting this can lead to high interest rates and mounting debt that eats away at your income. They recommend paying down high interest debt and actively managing your credit score.
So it's all about taking control of your finances and making choices that support your long-term goals. So listener, think about these broke behaviors. Is there one area where you could make a positive change today, even a small one?
That's the key. It's not about being perfect, it's about progress. Their message is clear: building wealth isn't about luck or privilege. It's about having a plan, making informed decisions, and taking action consistently.
It's about taking ownership of your financial future, and they go on to propose a very specific action plan, a step-by-step guide to putting all this into practice. That's what we'll be diving into in part 2, so stay tuned. Welcome back. All right, so before the break, we were about to get into the nitty-gritty of the action plan, the step-by-step guide to actually, putting all this wealth-building knowledge into practice.
It's interesting how they try to bridge that gap,
Yeah.
between theory and action. Like, it's not just about inspiring you with ideas, it's about giving you concrete steps to get started.
All right, so step 1, pick a high-income skill and start freelancing. Seems pretty straightforward, right? And it aligns with what we talked about earlier, those in-demand skills that can actually translate into, real income.
And the beauty of freelancing is you can test the waters without making a huge commitment.
Mm.
Gain experience, build a portfolio, start generating income, all on your own terms. It's a great way to kind of dip your toes into entrepreneurship, see if it's a good fit.
Yeah, it makes sense, especially if you're still working a full-time job. It's like a side hustle that could eventually become something bigger.
Exactly. And even within coding, there's a whole range of high-income skills: web development, data science, mobile app development. These are all areas where skilled freelancers can command top dollar. The source even suggests exploring niches where you can combine your skills with AI. Imagine being a freelancer who specializes in creating AI-powered chatbots for businesses. That's a skill set that's only going to become more valuable.
It's like you're at the forefront of this whole new wave. All right, step 2, set up an online business or invest in an existing one. This is where things start to feel a little more, daunting.
It's definitely a step up from freelancing, but the source argues that the potential rewards can be much higher. We talked about different types of online businesses, drop shipping digital products, SaaS, all that. But actually launching one, it requires a planned research, a willingness to learn as you go.
And they're pretty realistic about that. They don't sugarcoat the challenges, but they emphasize focusing on a niche, building an audience, figuring out how to monetize effectively.
It's about finding a problem you can solve for a specific group of people and creating a product or service that addresses that need. Could be as simple as an online course, teaching a skill you're good at, or developing a software solution that streamlines a business process.
And for those who aren't ready to launch their own thing, they suggest investing in an existing online business. Could be anything from buying stock in a tech company to becoming an angel investor in a startup.
It's another way to diversify your portfolio and potentially tap into high-growth opportunities. But as with any investment, do your research understand the business model, the financials, the risks involved before committing any serious capital?
So it's not just about chasing trends. It's about being an informed investor.
Yeah.
All right, step 3, invest at least 20% of your income in stocks, real estate, or crypto. This sounds familiar, like the classic pay yourself first advice.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing your financial future by consistently setting aside a portion of your income. Now, 20% is a guideline, not a hard and fast rule. You might adjust it based on your income, expenses, and goals.
But the principle makes sense. Make investing a regular habit, not something you do if there's money left over.
And they recommend a mix of asset classes, stocks, real estate, even crypto, to spread the risk. That's diversification. It's like a safety net for your investments. If one area doesn't perform well, others might help balance it out.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Okay, final step. Cut unnecessary expenses and automate savings. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of personal finance.
It's about being mindful of your spending habits, making sure your money is working for you, not just disappearing. They're not saying you have to become a penny pincher, but it's about conscious spending.
Yeah, aligning your spending with your values and your goals. If financial freedom is a priority, then maybe those daily lattes or impulse buys need a second thought.
And automating your savings can really help, set up automatic transfers from checking to savings or investment accounts each month. You won't even miss the money, and it'll be growing in the background.
I love that. Make it automatic, take the emotion out of it.
And they make an interesting point. Most wealthy people didn't get rich just by being frugal. They focused on building income streams and investing wisely while also being mindful of their spending.
So it's about finding that balance, enjoying life today while building a secure future.
Exactly. And they remind us getting rich isn't some magic formula. It's taking action. This action plan provides a framework, but you have to adapt it to your own situation goals and risk tolerance.
It's like having a recipe, but you can adjust the ingredients to your liking. All right, before we move on to our final thoughts, I want to touch on risk management again, especially for anyone interested in investing.
It's a crucial aspect that often gets overlooked when we talk about diversification. We're talking about spreading your investments across different asset classes to reduce risk. Imagine investing all your money in a single stock and that company goes bankrupt. You'd lose everything. But if you had a mix of stocks, bonds, real estate, the impact would be much less.
It's like having a diverse skill set, right?
Yeah.
If one industry takes a hit, you've got other options to fall back on.
Exactly. And within each asset class, you can diversify further. Like with stocks, you can invest in different sectors, technology, healthcare, energy in different regions. This helps to reduce the risk associated with any one sector or region underperforming.
It's about spreading your bets, not putting all your eggs in one basket. We've heard that before.
And risk management is also about knowing your own risk tolerance. Are you comfortable with short-term market fluctuations, or do you prefer more stable, predictable investments? Your risk tolerance will influence your choices and how you allocate your portfolio.
Great point. It's not one size fits all. You have to tailor your strategy to your needs and comfort levels.
Absolutely. And remember, even with seemingly safe investments, like bonds, there's always some level of risk. It's about being informed, understanding the potential downsides, and making calculated decisions.
Well said. All right, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are some key takeaways you hope our listeners are getting from this action plan analysis?
But I think the most important takeaway is that action is key. It's not enough to just read about this stuff. You have to actually implement these strategies.
And there are multiple paths to wealth freelancing, starting a business, investing wisely. The source gives a good overview of how to get started.
Right. Find what works for you, what aligns with your skills, passions, and risk tolerance. There's no right or wrong way as long as you're taking steps towards your financial goals.
It's about empowerment, taking control of your financial future. Now we've explored their action plan in detail, but what I'm really curious about is their concluding thoughts. What stood out to you?
For me, it was their emphasis on adapting this plan to your own unique circumstances. They acknowledge it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, which is refreshing.
And that's where our deep dive comes in, right?
Yeah.
We're not just repeating what the source says, we're analyzing it, adding our own insights, and trying to make it relevant to our listener.
Exactly. And that leads me to a final thought-provoking question as we head into part 3.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit us with that question.
Right.
Okay, we're back and, ready to wrap up this deep dive into your source material on building wealth in the USA. I feel like we've covered a lot from, mindset shifts to specific action steps.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack, but I think it's been, worthwhile.
It has, and now it's time to kind of distill all this down, into some key takeaways and leave you, the listener, with something to really ponder, something to think about.
Yeah, and what's interesting is on the surface, this source had that, get rich quick kind of vibe,
Yeah.
but like underneath, there were some pretty solid principles woven throughout.
Yeah, that's what struck me too. Like, despite pushing that fast wealth angle, their own action plan, those steps, like investing 20% of your income, building scalable businesses, that speaks to a long game, not overnight success.
Right. Building wealth, it takes time, consistency,
Yeah.
a willingness to play the long game.
Absolutely. And it made me think, maybe the real shortcut is actually developing that right mindset early on. Like, instead of chasing, those quick wins, you focus on building a solid foundation for lasting financial success.
I like that. That's a great way to put it. It's like, building a house. You wouldn't try to build the roof before the foundation is set, right?
Exactly. And speaking of foundations, the source also talked about strategic skill building, whether it's developing those high-income skills they mentioned, or honing those entrepreneurial skills needed to launch and scale a business.
For sure. Investing in yourself, acquiring knowledge, constantly upgrading your skills. That's just as important as investing in stocks or real estate. It's about becoming an asset yourself,
Mm.
making yourself valuable.
Yeah, and that can take so many forms, right? Formal education, online courses, mentorship, just immersing yourself in a field you're passionate about.
Exactly. And let's not forget about, calculated risk taking. The source touched on diversifying investments, which is a form of risk management. But starting a business, putting your work out there as a freelancer, those are risks too, but with huge potential rewards.
That's where it gets exciting. It's about finding that balance between playing it safe and, pushing yourself outside that comfort zone, because honestly, staying stuck in a dead-end job out of fear, that might be the biggest risk of all.
That's so true. And that actually leads me to a final thought-provoking question, based on this source material, something for our listeners to really chew on.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's hear it.
The source, they kept emphasizing the power of technology, suggesting things like, combining AI with high-income skills, building online businesses. So here's a question. How can you leverage technology and automation, not just to earn income, but to accelerate your wealth-building journey?
Right.
Really kick things into high gear.
I love that question. It's not just about using the tools that are out there, but about thinking, creatively, strategically, maybe even a little disruptively.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that, the landscape of wealth creation is always evolving. Technology is playing a bigger and bigger role, and those who, embrace it, learn to harness its power, they'll likely have a big advantage.
It's about staying ahead of the curve, being adaptable, constantly seeking out new knowledge and opportunities. It's exciting and a little intimidating at the same time.
Absolutely. But that's what makes this journey so fascinating, right?
Yeah.
There's always something new to learn, new strategies, to explore new ways to leverage our, ingenuity and resources.
Totally. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive. We've explored the mindset, the strategies, the potential pitfalls, even some thought-provoking questions to guide you on your own, path to building wealth.
It's been great, dissecting this source material with you and hopefully providing our listeners with some valuable insights to apply to their own financial journey.
So to you listening, remember, building wealth, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It takes patience, persistence, and a willingness to, learn and adapt. But most importantly, it's about taking action. Don't let fear or indecision hold you back. Start small, build momentum, and keep moving forward. Who knows, maybe one day we'll be deep diving into your success story. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep reaching for those financial dreams.